We are back with our experts discussing the fallout from the Supreme Court's decision overturning Roe v. Wade. We have two legal experts and the director of North Carolina A&T's nursing program. We want you to text us your questions, 336-379-5775. This first question that we have is, what does this mean for IVF clinics? Does this change anything with frozen embryos? Rebecca, did you want to start us off on this one?
The Supreme Court has said that the issue of abortion is up to the states to decide. It's the right to abortion. So if state legislators decide to write into either their state statutes or their state constitution that life begins at the moment of fertilization, then according to the Supreme Court decision issued today, I think that they would have the ability to do that, which could have substantial impacts for things like the legality of IVF.
And what you would do with all of those eggs.
And what you would do with all of the eggs that have been stored for many years, that people have been investing a lot of time and energy into protecting for their future fertility options.
And I would just add, if that's considered a life, then we now have criminal law issues involving murder and homicide.
Okay, and so this is going to be constantly unraveling as we see what's going on. And so we might not have definitive answers to questions, but at least we're able to start talking about this and give context to this. This person's asking, what does this mean for women who miscarry?
This is a heartbreaking one. And my first response to that is that there's already been evidence actually for many years that people have been prosecuted for negative pregnancy outcomes, miscarriages, stillbirths, as well as charged with all sorts of criminal charges because of things that happen as a result of their pregnancy. It's important to note that the prosecution of those cases is not random, and that certain types of people seem to be more likely to get caught up in prosecution for that, especially women of color. So in recent years, we've seen several women of color who've been incarcerated because of miscarriages. And it's very difficult to prove whether or not, in fact, it's not difficult, it's sometimes impossible to show whether or not somebody had a miscarriage or an induced abortion. So what we'll see here is that as people have heartbreaking pregnancy loss that is of no fault of their own, that they could be subject to prosecution, including incarceration.
And again, this is what we think could be happening. We don't know, correct?
Though that is already happening.
That has already happening. Okay.
Yes.
All right, Dr. Davis, I wanted to talk about the nurses and those nurses who are going to be then talking to women who are coming here. Is their job, is what they're going to be saying have to change?
Much of what we do as nurses is educate our patients on the best healthcare options for them, as well as the best healthcare for them. And so as nurses in North Carolina, it may not affect us in what we tell patients, but definitely nurses outside of states where it's banned, it could be considered illegal to suggest care that may be the best for them.
Okay. This next question is, we're talking so much about Constitution and rights and this, that, and the other. The plain question is, what is a constitutional right? Steve, I know you could probably talk for a whole half hour about it.
And so could Rebecca. We can definitely have our conversation, but basically, when you have a constitutional right, it limits what the government can do. So if this is considered a fundamental right, it means the government has to come up with a really, really good reason to pass a law that inhibits or violates that right. What the Supreme Court did today was say abortion is no longer protected by a fundamental constitutional right. And therefore, as long as states act reasonably, they can prohibit it, even criminalize it.